Welcome everybody. Our first B2B e-commerce tech talk session. So I always wish to get a monthly feedback or talk with people about IT together with IT and tech enthusiasts. So today is the first time, so that's great. I am a computer and IT enthusiast, and I know many in the webinar as well. So the concept is very straightforward. Every month we cover one or two topics on the agenda based on what's going on the market or related topics or what's going on in the audience. So, and you can ask me anything, tell your experience or what could help others to in the virtual room that is joining this webinar. So, and if you register or apply for the series, you will receive during the week for every new session, you will receive the agenda for at least the topics that we have selected for that particular session. And then you can decide if you want to join or not. And anyway, don't worry if you cannot make it, because we will record every session and it can be found on YouTube or on our podcast channel. So you can drop any questions up front via email, send me a direct message on LinkedIn, or live via the chat box here in Zoom that we are using. And our moderator, Emilie, welcome Emilie, will try her best to get all the questions answered or covered. So that was a pretty big introduction, but good to do that for the first time. So anyway, and let's go to Emilie.
Yes, thank you, Arno. Happy to be here. My name is Emilie. I'm the Director of Customer Success for Sana, which means that I've been basically focusing on the success of our customers for the last 5 years. Today, I will be mostly your moderator, which means that I will help you ask questions to Arno. You can speak your question. You can post them in the chat. That's up to you. If you have any problem, also please chat and I'll try to help solve these issues. If we can't answer all the questions, we will gather them after the session and we'll see if we cover them in a follow-up session or if we answer in any other way. And like Arno mentioned, the session is recorded, so you'll be able to find it again on our podcast or YouTube channel.
Cool. All right. Let's start with the first topic of today. And resources, right? IT resources and resource planning. That is something I think we are all suffering, or at least we at Sana, we also feel it, maybe after the pandemic or just on the trend that the digital transformation is accelerating and requires a lot of IT resources. But everybody I think is feeling it, and the pressure has never been so high on your digital roadmaps that needs to be rolled out. The war on talent is crazy. And even if you look at statistics, for example, the US IT industry, the staff turnover is at 30.2%, which makes, it's one of the highest percentages of all industries. That's, I think, a contributing factor of, that it's harder to keep your people or to hire new IT talent to your company. And that results actually in slower development. So it's very important to spend your time wisely. And one thing for B2B organizations, or one part that I want to cover today, is part of our vision is that B2B organizations are wasting a lot of their valuable IT resources on the time of making software integrations work. So as an integration evangelist, or at least enthusiast, I believe in that technical and functional integration unlocks a lot of benefits. For example, if you make, your e-commerce system with your backend systems like the ERP work as one, you have less maintaining time needed for maintaining both systems. So pricing change in one system is automatically there, and you can focus more on other topics, for example. And I'm interviewing a lot of IT managers or CIOs. And it's still, for B2B organizations, and still so surprisingly to see that so many people are, let's say, still shifting files from one system to another with FTP or something, or, using even manual work to, get systems into sync. And I think that's a waste of time. Another benefit is that you have less support tickets or less errors, because what's happening in one system is directly be used in the other one. For example, with B2B e-commerce, or at least how we do it at Sana, that if you place an order in one system, it's directly in the ERP, and no mistakes can happen in between. So it saves you a lot of time on your first and second line support. So, and in the end, less budget is then being taken by actually developing these integrations or maintaining these integrations if you select software vendors that are spending a bit more time on making systems just work in the landscapes that we are in today. So keeping your highly skilled IT people motivated by using them on development and innovation, and not on maintenance or keeping syncs on systems, is I think something we really need to do. And and the B2B e-commerce platform, which is completely integrated with the ERP, is enabling this. So that's a little bit the introduction, and maybe we can see if there are any questions from the audience, or if there is any feedback or experience from people in the room. We also do a podcast, or talking with I'm not sure if you've seen it already, but we are recording a weekly podcast as well, talking with IT managers. And one of the things we always ask is, what is benefiting you from this integration? So, and one of the things that was clearly mentioned, or what I remembered last time, was one of the people were sharing about the fact that they have a lot of different companies that they are supporting in their B2B let's say customer base, right? So a lot of different countries, and every country requires different pricing and so on, different assortments. And the amount of time that's being saved if these systems work together, and you can get pricing and tax information over in an easy way, in a real-time way, save them so much time in, let's say, rolling out new stores, for example, or creating if they want to make an adjustment in pricing, or actually setting up the stores as a start as well, right? So you do not have to configure everything. Everything was just being taken what is already available in the ERP, of system of record, if others are also calling it nowadays. That's of course a very easy thing to do. Other examples are there as well. So we had a customer that, for example, has a huge catalog of many different products, and if you need to maintain that and need to copy paste changes in multiple systems, for example, product information management, and also your ERP, and then also in the e-commerce platform, or you need to because maybe not all the systems are working together out of the box or fluently, then you are, especially if your catalog is from a decent size, let's say, so 100,000 of products, that's a huge waste of time. And it's still so funny to see, or actually not funny, but it's still strange to see that so many companies are still struggling with things that can be just automated, right? So and that's what we are here for, and that's why how we built Sana to really, from an IT perspective, make things easier, so that you can spend your time more wisely. So
good. Arno, we have our first question.
Oh, okay. That's always the beginning, right? First one is always there.
Frank is asking, how do you make the best use of your IT resources?
So of course it really depends on how big or small your organization is, because I also sometimes interview in companies, and then the IT resources is just a one-man band, if I call it like that. But I think it's more important, what can you do with the resources, and how can you optimize it? So we strongly believe if you select, let's say, if you're building your IT landscape and you're selecting software that is nicely integrating and working together, you can save a lot of time, and you can actually do much more with the resources that you're having, and you can use the time to innovate more, etc., etc. Also one of the podcast series that's soon to be published. I think it's not live yet, but it was also that actually one person, because of creating an IT landscape where he had, in this particular case, it was, I believe, Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, together with Sana and a couple of other add-ons on top of it. Since it was also integrated, he could spend a lot of time on other things, and he was actually, it was still a pretty big company, but he was the only IT guy running everything, and he could be that one-man band or that one person doing everything because of this. So, how to use your resources, I think use them wisely, and definitely not limit all the manual work. And once again, or even if it's automated, make sure that it's good, because also talking to other companies, there are so many, companies still struggling that, then they have integration with systems, for example, with the web service calls or something, or with middleware, but then integration had issues, or they are not really optimized for it, and they are still having, day-to-day issues to be fixed. And I think it's never nice if you are only, solving a lot of issues day to day, or that you are working with maintenance, or even need to maintain multiple systems, because the business also doesn't have time for it. And then say, let the IT guys make sure that new pricing is in system A and in system B. Avoid all those manual work. So really, always try to see if there is, and look at yourself and at your organization if there is no hidden manual work or manual work going on, because I think that's really a waste of time. We can really use the resources more wisely.
And do you see, another question by the way, do you see that there are type of resources that are outsourced, and why?
Yeah, so obviously you can you can be smart there as well. I think we do the same at Sana, right? So sometimes it's not always necessary to do everything by yourself. It's much more or much better if you choose a company that is specialized in it. Couple of examples. So if you really go on the lowest level, let's say, so on hardware, I think with Sana we made the decision already pretty early to move to the cloud. That was not only for security. Actually, we went to Azure, but and that was already 5 or 6 years ago. But it was also that we had so many people maintaining that hardware, and we were. If we really honestly look at ourselves, we were not really specialized in that, right? Okay, we hired engineers and technical people, obviously, but once I visited one of these data centers and saw how they do that at scale, and with so much more expertise, I think you can never win that. And so this is on the lowest level on hardware or networks and stuff like that. And of course that's further evolved now with all the other services they are supplying, but same story applies for integration or e-commerce, and in that sense. So use a company or a specialized organization to solve the trick for you. That definitely helps to do that quicker and make. But it's maybe always good, and that's maybe another lesson that I want to share, is that although you're outsourcing it, it's still good that you know how to deal with it yourself, right? So also when we moved to Azure, we still, did a lot of training, and so that we could take it over from there. After Microsoft helped us, for example. And the same story applies, I think, if you choose B2B commerce like Sana, that it's being set up by consultants or partner or by us. But then from there, really as a customer, make sure that you can then from there handle it yourself, because it's good to be flexible, right? Definitely something to find also that a perfect mixture, and not try to reinvent the wheel, not try to think, we can do everything, because I think it's much better to use specialized companies for where possible.
Yeah, and I think you also deliver a better experience to your customers by bringing the expertise of these other companies to them. Exactly. Last question, maybe then we can go to the low-code, no-code topic.
Yeah.
Frank is asking, they are thinking about offshoring a part of their IT department. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for that?
Of course, we do that at Sana as well. And it was we're doing that already for a long time, right? So more than 10, 15 years, and on different purposes. So we have, let's say, outsourced our, or actually it's, in that sense, not really outsourced because it's our own employees and our own people. But yeah, we are having development centers in different countries and all over the world. And we have also our internal IT departments in different locations. Same for data, our IT and data, our business part that is doing the reporting. And so we also have different resources all over the world. Your first tip is, of course, depends a little bit on how big is the need or how big is the skill. You can, of course, work first of all with a company that is selling this kind of things, and that can be nice for a kickstart. However, commitment can be a little bit lower, and also, it's not really your colleagues. It's just that you like a freelancer, maybe on bigger scale. Okay, you pay something and you get something. It really worked well to, if you say, maybe it will be a group of people of 10, 20 at some point in time, that you say, hey, maybe we should explore to, really build something ourselves. And still you can use, consultancy firms that will give you a kickstart. But from there, like a little bit like, how we move to Azure, from there we take it over. So that you first do a kickstart, you hire the first people and you get the country, you get all the specifics around it, you get to know them. But then from there you're on your own and you have own control of your organization. And the big why behind it is, I think, everything to do with culture, because then you can build your culture that you want to build there, your company culture or the culture that you're having maybe in your IT department. And that I think is really beneficial to keep the people motivated, or to keep them and to get better results, right? So and also get commitment for maybe longer term. Otherwise, people are just switching jobs all the time. So that's at least how we did it. And we also started small with maybe 5, 6 people. And now I think every development center or hub where we have engineers is at least 150 people. So it's pretty big, I would say. And but still with the same principles of keeping that culture alive. Sharing that Sana company vibe. Yeah,
definitely agree. It doesn't feel like they are different employees than us. We are all colleagues and we work well together. And based on what I've seen at other companies, at Sana, we have people in these development centers that work for 15 years.
Exactly.
It's quite exceptional in the IT world.
Yeah. So that's definitely, that's also, indeed much higher than what we see with other companies, right? That they are shifting around much more frequent. Really build that culture, and that can be, from big to small, is everything, of course, what you can do there. But I truly will say, I can say that maybe if you can do a roadshow once, COVID is now over, so if this group of people is enthusiastic and we do a roadshow around the offices of Sana, I'm sure that you will feel the same vibe in every door you open. So it doesn't matter if that is in Sri Lanka or Medellin or in New York or in you will, of course you will recognize the logo and the colors, but I think you will get the same vibe as well. So that's definitely part of the journey.
Sounds good. I propose that we move on to the low-code, no-code.
Yeah. That was the second topic. It was also a little bit related to resources, quite related to resources. So that's why we scheduled it. So low-code, no-code is a trend. It's actually a way of developing or creating software so that not only engineers or developers can add value or create value, but that actually everybody can be a developer, and they call that citizen developers. The big why behind it is, so why is that something that started years ago already, is that they already foresee that that IT resources would be scarce, and that is, of course, one of the foundation principles. And next to, let's say, integration or focusing on making systems work really ideally next to each other in an ecosystem, like we want to achieve with Sana, especially in SAP and Microsoft Dynamics, what we are supporting, then this is another one that really can help to solve the resource problem, because what it will do is that, since engineers are so scarce, you can still find other people that are maybe a little bit tech savvy but know the business really well. And how beautiful is it if they can, solve solutions and you do not need developers to do so. And that is something I really get more and more enthusiastic about, and also I think it is really gaining momentum there. And the thing what we are doing at Sana, at least, is that we for example, we are building things in the product like the visual designer, which is really based on this low-code, no-code principle that everybody actually, maybe with a little bit of knowledge, of course, can modify the web store, the web platform, or how you call it, or maybe even a portal if you use it. You don't need a designer or a front-end developer, or you do not need to know HTML knowledge, and you don't even need a developer if you want to change the logic or something, or even want to display maybe other data from the ERP system. You can just do that by dragging, dropping, and so on. So no lines of code are needed. So that's really no code. Then there's also a little bit of low code concept, so that there is extensibility on top of it, so that with small pieces of code you can change stuff even further. Of course, then you need a little bit more engineering background, but let's focus mostly on this no code. So what's the advantage there? And also, we have covered that in one of our podcasts, is that for example, designers or front-end developers is also pretty scarce resource, or they can be so they were not even available. And if you want to modify your style, your website, then it's hard to find somebody, and you will not be able to do so. So then we were discussing, saying, but now with the new version of Sana, we could do everything in the visual designer really easy, and we didn't need to hire somebody externally, or we didn't need to hire somebody new, and which we could anyway not find. So somebody from the marketing team was perfectly able to do so, because she had a great vision, and they could directly put that vision in the system. So that's one part. And on the other hand, there's another related topic there, as we talk about Sana, is that there are no-code or low-code platforms in the world. If you look at the Gartner reports, there are many of them. You have OutSystems, Mendix, but also Microsoft. They are all having different platforms. And the Power Platform for Microsoft we have also used for our reporting, and that is Power BI is one of the 5 pillars of the Power Platform, and it's a low-code, no-code platform for Microsoft. And we have embedded that and integrated that with Sana, and doing so we can create, or even our customers can modify their reports easily without any knowledge of coding, right? So they can do it by themselves. The only thing that we did is, and maybe only is a small thing, but still quite a lot of work, but we made sure that all those data sources are available, right? And that they are integrated with the platform, and that we did some plumbing to make this so that you can create these reports. But from there, customers can modify that themselves, and so on and so on. And maybe there are even bigger plans looking at the future of Sana, that we of course we are going further investment in the visual designer. So now it's covering a part of the system, but we want to do everything with it. So have more components, more pages that are being managed, etc. So that would hopefully help to simplify the work for IT managers. So no more time needed to develop new features or coding. You can just do that yourself.
So I have a question about another topic I would like to go to, and then go back to this topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
This other topic is very relevant for IT managers. I think quite often you have to transition from one tool to another.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be a scary project, I think.
Yeah.
And Russell is asking, they will be using Sana for their e-commerce application. but they're transitioning from a totally different application.
Yeah.
And so they're wondering if you have any advice to share with them, any thoughts.
Yeah, and so if you want to move from one system to another system, and for Sana, for one e-commerce system to another one, so first of all, the what we see often with customers is that let's say many information, and that's I think also the reason why you choose Sana is in your system of records, so this is in your ERP. So that should already give you a kickstart if you talk about pricing and product information. However, you have maybe also a lot of content in your store. That's, by the way, a good opportunity to look at it and see if you can optimize it and use the visual designer to go to the next iteration. But the second thing is that we are actually close to release also migration tooling or import-export functionality to do this text, for example, and product descriptions and so on. And actually, there is already also other tooling available in Sana, for example, with shop accounts or something. If you have email accounts and so on. So actually, I think first thing to do, and our consultants are helping there with you, but I think in general for changing systems is just to have a good overview first, and that can be sometimes pretty a big list. So sometimes if you see one system going to another system, you get this huge list of all things. Oh yeah, but this is there, and that is there, and that is there, and that is because you have, of course, that platform already for so many years. So that has been naturally grown in everything what's in there, from content to functionality maybe that you have built, from other stuff that you have put in there. And that first list, that generating the list is not the finish line of the start of the product. No, what you then need to do is really, and that's often forgotten, is really look at that list and just try to remove half of it. Because I'm sure, and that is just based on the information I have with looking at projects together with our customers, is that half of that list is not really applicable anymore, right? So that is just there. And a lot of people are always biased and say, it is there, so it should be there. But is it, for example, is a certain piece of content or a lot of content pages is still performing well? Do you have the metrics? Maybe then if you look into that and say, hey, these pages were hardly ever visited, why migrating them, right? So that's often forgotten. So make that list, reduce it, and then look at the tooling what's available to see if you can onboard quicker. That is mostly the tip in general for not only for e-commerce systems, but in general to move to SaaS systems, because most of them software as a service, SaaS systems tend to maybe have less flexibility, so you need to make decisions, right? And that's often forgotten.
Yeah, like you said, we have consultants to help with that.
Sure.
In the project. Yeah. That's actually for any project we have with our customers.
Partners as well.
Yeah. We actually start the project with an analysis and seeing what the needs are before we really kickstart the implementation.
Exactly. Yeah. And also maybe becoming from back in the days when we maybe were more like an agency, or if like a web agency, they say, okay, let's develop everything. We really now are also really guiding our customers, saying, hey, do you need all of this, right? We do not want to have a huge project. We just want you to be successful and as quickly as possible go live, right? So that's I think a big difference from, let's say, back in the days. And that's also not only for e-commerce, but in general, and all systems that are now migrating to SaaS.
Russell has a follow-up.
Yeah, no, sure.
You mentioned, I think, an export-import function in Sana. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's we have a couple. So we have a couple of areas. So one is, of course, with customer shop accounts and so on. That's already there. But we are close to release for other ones as well. So for text, for example, and for product enrichments. Of course, most of the product data can come from the ERP or the system of record. But if you have some enrichments in another system, for example, nice style pages or HTML, then we are close to release import functionality and export functionality there to make it onboarding quicker. But we can also offer that now. You don't have to wait for that release. We also offer services to help you with that. Yeah, saves you a lot of time to automate it instead of doing it manually.
Yeah, sounds good. To go back to the local topic, I see we have another question.
Yeah.
are you going to integrate local no-code in the product dev of Sana?
Yeah, so I think we are already, let's say, technically doing that in that sense that a lot of our things that we in the past did with developers or front-end developers, we are now doing with our own consultants. So most of the design work nowadays is really configuring in the Visual Designer. So the front-end development and maybe a little bit part of the it is not being done by developers anymore, but by consultants or our customers. So it's actually already happening, and we have plans to make the scale even further. Reporting, same story what I just shared, right? In the past, we were creating reports just based on what's the need of the customer, but now we can do that by using a platform from Power BI. So I think technically we are doing that already, but there is still a huge path ahead of us to go further and make sure that we make sure that everybody can do changes. Let's say so. I strongly believe that we should be a platform or product actually that is out of the box. So you open it, it can directly work, and you can start working with it, and you don't need developers to connect APIs and to create a front end and connect it and so on. Spend a lot of resources because I think, like we just mentioned saw in the polls, these resources are scarce and will only be worse. So it's better to we believe it's better to focus on something on another direction. Yeah.
And I can ask a question too, right?
Yeah, sure, of course. Why not?
Well, when I hear local no-code, I hear a lot of people thinking, okay, we don't need developers, anyone can develop. But I've spoken with a company that develops such software in Rotterdam, and they mentioned that they have to put a lot of effort in supporting their customers in coming up with business ideas for their apps, etc. What do you think are the key skills that are required from people using these software?
No, obviously. So it's of course not, nothing is the holy grail. So, and also maybe related to that is also that low code or no code is maybe in the name because it's low and no. It's also that it's really cheaper. So that you say, okay, or you're more cost effective, that you say, okay, we had now a project plan of $90,000 or something. And now, okay, if you go in low code, no code platform, then it's low and no. So that should be only $3,000 or something. No, that's not the case. Maybe on the time spent, it's more or less the same, but it gives you a lot of flexibility on what resources you can put there. And yes, it's correct. It's still, of course, it is still a very important part of it is really defining what you need. And also there, and there is still a lot of things to do. That's actually a skill set that you need. It's not actually a development thing, but to make sure that you can, we call it with product, in the product team said defining MVP, minimal viable product. What is now necessarily needed to fulfill a certain requirement, right? And the biggest trick there is also to go, if it is minimal, you can even go 2 or 3 times more minimal if you just spend time on this a little bit more. And the benefit there is that you will be quicker and that you can test it then with your audience. Because and that is also always what I advise to our customers. If you take it from our perspective, go live as quick as you can and build it from there, right? Because you simply do not know. There are still, there are so many organizations so biased or so traditional that they say, no, it always worked like this. It should be this. We need this whole requirements because it's already 20 years in the system. And then I ask, okay, do you have some click statistics? Yeah, the example that I mentioned. Yeah, that's true. And then I'm looking at it and say, 2 visits a week, I say, okay, maybe it's better to focus on something which is more important. So skill set, coming back to your question, defining what is needed, what will add value to your customers. Not everybody has that. I think you can learn it by asking the right questions, but you should be a little bit open to it, and then that will be there. So, but just do not just open it and start building and creating, because then of course you will also wasting resources, because you will spend a lot of time on dragging and dropping instead of designing or developing, and that is also not good, right? Yeah, there was one question. I'm not sure from who it was. Here I have from Klaas. Yeah, so he mentioned, let's say, okay, how can or will Sana solve complex B2B requirements with low code or no code? Is that actually, is that even possible? So yeah, really great question. Of course, how complex is complex? The good thing, what I think is happening, is of course, like the visual designer, is that these tools are getting more sophisticated. Every release. Same story applies for the Power Platform. Same story applies. I think Mendix is already a leader, but Power Platform from Microsoft is also expanding a lot, and that helps. So I'm actually also quite inspired to see companies that are doing actually quite a lot of complex stuff, because the systems that they are using already are not able to handle that complexity. So there are already other ISVs in the market, also in the Microsoft ecosystem or the SAP ecosystem, that say, hey, okay, with a low-code solution or no-code solution, we are building something on top or next to SAP or next to Microsoft, because for this scenario, it is not really possible to fit it in the tooling supply. So yeah, then I think you're really choosing a complex path. For example, I'm also so examples, for example, where renting a complex piece of machinery for the construction world, let's say, so in the area of construction, that's maybe not so easy to implement in a system of record or an ERP system like in Microsoft. So then it's maybe better to step out for that kind of process, configure the whole order that you need, and then go back and then have it in the system. And yeah, maybe the same concept is what we do with Sana, in that sense that sometimes we with the visual designer or with what we're trying to see if we can maybe, like with this reporting, we make a small step outside of Sana and use a tool that can handle more complexity in terms of reporting to handle so. And I think the answer is yes. And another argument I want to use is I think this complex B2B or these complex requirements is what is also an ingredient for success is if you, as a software vendor, focusing your low-code, no-code capabilities on the area that you're in. So we have great platforms already in the market. If you look at the different suppliers, once again, the Mendix, Microsoft, all those OutSystems which are there in the world, but mostly they are still really on the business applications and so on, and trying to cover everything, right? And that works great for probably a little bit more simple ones, but with B2B e-commerce or a complex B2B scenarios, then it's maybe better to, and that's at least our vision, or where we see the solution, is we will not create a low-code, no-code platform, or we will not create the visual design in such a way that we can create any kind of portal or any kind of new application that you can also build an HR system or something. No, I think that's not what we want. We are focusing that and optimizing it for B2B e-commerce or B2B scenarios. And if you do that, then you can make optimizations to be able to handle these complex situations. And I think that's a little bit, at least a new direction we are taking, because we believe that is a solution to success. And maybe the other ones will follow as well, like the big players that they have maybe more industry specific optimizations or accelerators, but still, we really put that talking about Sana on our focus area. So I think, short answer, yes, you can handle complex B2B requirements if you optimize the tool for it, and that's what we're doing at Sana. So now, in general, maybe just to summarize a little bit for today, for the first session. So we talked a little bit about the problem that we all see, that IT resources are scarce, and that you as an IT manager, doesn't matter if you are a one-man band or if you are, let's say, leading a group of 100 of IT enthusiasts, it's a challenge for both. And with integration as a priority for ISVs like Sana, but I'm trying to enthusiast also other ones to say, hey, let's not only supply only APIs or just import exports, but also really make the systems work as one, because that will save so much time, and it's still so bad to see that so many IT departments are struggling with manual maintenance and so on. So but definitely is a role to win there, and that can be done with choosing software like Sana if you're talking about B2B. But there are also other platforms, of course, that focus more on integration. And another solution to at least for the future is for low-code, no-code platforms that on one hand, that we are taking that concept as Sana to implement it in our products, make sure that you're not dependent from engineers anymore, but that you can use or that you have a bigger pool to hire from as an IT manager or as a company. And we do that with the visual design and other concepts inside the tool. And that we maybe also integrate or embrace the other platforms to make step outs, to make things more, to handle complex situations and bring that into Sana e-commerce platform, for example, what we do with reporting, and maybe with future things we have plans there as well. I think that is the things we want to share today. And if you have any more, questions, feel free to send me them in the email once again, or via LinkedIn. You can follow me, or if you like this topic or you like this topics where we're talking about, you can follow our podcast on the B2B e-commerce talk on Spotify or on YouTube. And that I think is it for today. So thanks for the questions and for the people that joined. And thank you, Emilie.
Thank you, Arno.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Have a nice evening or day, everyone.
Yes.
And hope to see you in the next
time.
TikTok.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.